You don't want to play games in your relationship. You just want closeness and connection. But instead of feeling more connected, you keep doing things that backfire, like pulling away to see if they'll notice, or posting something emotional on
Mm.
social media just to get a reaction from your partner.
If you've ever done something like this, not because you wanted to hurt them, but because you were hurting, you might be engaging in what attachment researchers call protest behaviors. These are common reactions for people with anxious attachment that actually push partners away instead of pulling them closer.
Today, we'll explain what protest behaviors are, why they show up in anxious attachment, and what to do instead if you want a relationship based on real emotional safety rather than fear based testing. Hi, I'm Tarina.
And I'm Joel.
We're licensed therapists here to help you heal from anxious attachment, stop chasing unavailable love, and build the secure relationships and community you deserve.
Today, we're talking about 6 common protest behaviors, those unconscious ways people with anxious attachment test their partners when they're feeling insecure. And then we'll walk you through the 5 ways to create connection instead of distance.
So let's start with the basics. What exactly are protest behaviors and why do they happen in anxious attachment? Protest behaviors are ways that anxiously attached people react when they feel disconnected, afraid, or like they might be abandoned, often without realizing that they're even doing it.
And here's what's important to understand: these behaviors aren't consciously manipulative. What they are is protective. Your attachment system is trying to reestablish connection with your partner, but the strategies it chooses usually come from fear rather than trust.
Think of it like this. Protest behaviors are your nervous system's way of saying, hey, I need to know we're okay. But instead of asking directly, your anxiety chooses indirect methods that often create more distance instead of closeness.
In attachment theory, we see this as the opposite of what avoidant partners do. While people with avoidant attachment use deactivating strategies, they create distance when they feel overwhelmed. People with anxious attachment use hyperactivating strategies, which include these protest behaviors. They demand or test for connection.
I like to think of it using a therapy metaphor. It's like pulling the fire
Mm.
alarm when you really just need to check if the stove is still on. Your intention is safety, but the method creates chaos instead of the reassurance that you're actually seeking.
What makes protest behaviors particularly challenging is that while they may work in the short term, such as your partner responding with attention or reassurance, they tend to erode trust and emotional safety over time.
So, what do protest behaviors actually look like? Let's go through some of the most common ones and see if you recognize any of these patterns in your own relationships. First, the silent treatment or emotional withdrawal. This looks like suddenly becoming cold or distant when you're feeling disconnected. You think, if they're not giving me what I need, I'll show them what it feels like to be ignored.
The problem with this protest behavior is that it feels like punishment to your partner, not an invitation for repair. Instead of creating the connection you want, it often makes your partner feel confused or defensive.
Second, excessive texting or calling. This might sound like, you okay? Did I do something wrong? Hello, why aren't you answering? When your partner doesn't respond immediately to your anxious attachment needs.
The problem here is that this behavior escalates tension instead of creating the emotional safety that would actually help both of you feel more secure.
Third, posting cryptic or emotional content on social media. You might post something vague about feeling sad or unappreciated, hoping your partner will see it and reach out. The thought process is, if they see I'm upset, maybe they'll finally give me the attention I need.
But this creates misunderstanding instead of clear communication. Your partner might not even realize the post is about them, or they might feel manipulated or called out publicly rather than motivated to connect.
Fourth, using criticism or blame instead of vulnerability. So instead of saying, I'm scared I'm losing you, you might say, you don't care about me, or you never make time for this relationship.
And this protest behavior puts your partner on the defensive instead of inviting them into connection. When someone feels attacked, their instinct is to protect themselves, not to move closer.
Fifth, creating jealousy or making comparisons. This might look like mentioning how other people treat their partners or how an ex used to be more attentive. The thought is, Maybe if they see that other people value me, they'll realize what they're losing.
But this triggers insecurity in your partner rather than inspiring love. It can make even secure partners start to question the relationship or feel like they're in competition rather than partnership.
And sixth, threatening to break up or dramatically walking out. When you're feeling disconnected, you might say something like, maybe we should just end this. Or you might leave during an argument, hoping they'll chase after you and fight for the relationship.
And the problem is that this creates instability rather than the reassurance your anxious attachment is seeking. And over time, these threats lose their impact and can actually push partners away permanently. Let me share what attachment research tells us about why these protest behaviors show up, especially for people with anxious attachment. Dr. Amir Levine and Rachel Heller's research in Attached explain that protest behaviors are what happens when your attachment system goes into hyperactivation mode. Your brain is essentially fighting for the closeness and security it needs to feel safe. When you feel disconnected from your partner, your nervous system interprets this as a threat to your survival, because evolutionarily, being separated from your attachment figure could mean death. So your brain chooses fear-based strategies to try to reestablish that connection as quickly as possible. Dr. Sue Johnson's research on emotionally focused therapy shows us that without co-regulation, that feeling of safety and attunement with your partner, anxiously attached individuals resort to those protest behaviors as their primary way of trying to get their needs met. What's important to understand is that these behaviors are survival responses, not character flaws. Your attachment system developed these strategies early in life when they might have actually worked to get attention or care from inconsistent caregivers. Brain imaging studies show that during these moments of attachment anxiety, the amygdala, your brain's alarm system, is highly activated, while the prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational thinking, goes offline. And this explains why you might engage in protest behaviors that you later regret or that don't make logical sense. The key insight is that protest behaviors happen when you're outside of your window of tolerance. You're not operating from your wise, regulated self. You're operating from a place of attachment panic.
It's important to understand how these anxious attachment protest behaviors affect your partner, even if they care about you and want the relationship to work.
Over time, even secure partners can start to feel confused, pressured, or emotionally exhausted when they're consistently dealing with protest behaviors. They might start walking on eggshells, unsure of what will trigger your anxiety or how to respond in ways that actually help.
The sad irony is that protest behaviors often push away exactly what you're trying to bring closer. When you test your partner through withdrawal, excessive contact, or indirect communication, you're asking them to prove their love in ways that don't feel loving to either of you.
These behaviors can erode trust and emotional safety in the relationship. Your partner might start to feel like they can never do anything right, or that your connection is always conditional on passing some test they didn't know they were taking.
So let's get to the heart of it. If you're recognizing these protest behaviors in your own relationships, I want you to know that you're not broken, manipulative, or too much. These behaviors developed when you were young, often in your family of origin where emotional connection may have felt inconsistent, confusing, or even unsafe. In that environment, protest behaviors weren't irrational, they were functional. They were your young nervous system's way of trying to maintain connection, get attention, or protect yourself in a dynamic that you had no power to change. As a child, you couldn't just name your needs, walk away, or choose a more secure environment. So your brain came up with strategies to survive emotional unpredictability. Strategies like clinging, people pleasing, testing, or emotional withdrawal. They worked then. They kept you attached enough to get by. But now, as an adult, you're still using those same survival scripts with relationships where they no longer serve you. So, what once protected you is now creating chaos. Protest behaviors that were once adaptive are now getting in the way of the very connection your adult self longs for. So, here's the hard truth: these protest behaviors often push away exactly what you're trying to bring closer. When you test your partner through withdrawal, excessive contact, or indirect communication, you're creating the very disconnection you're afraid of. And over time, even the most patient and secure partners can start to feel overwhelmed by these patterns. They might begin to associate your relationship with drama, unpredictability, or emotional exhaustion, which is the opposite of the safety and security your attachment system is actually seeking. The beautiful thing about recognizing protest behaviors is that awareness creates choice. Once you can see these patterns, you can start to interrupt them and choose responses that actually invite the connection you want. Here's what I learned in my own journey with anxious attachment. The people who are right for you won't need to be tested to prove their love. The right person will be consistently showing up, communicating clearly, and creating safety with you, not because you demanded it through protest behaviors, but because that's who they are. When you can move from testing someone's love to trusting someone's love, everything changes. You stop exhausting yourself and your partner with these fear-based strategies, and you start building the genuine security that your attachment system has always been seeking. The goal isn't to never feel anxious in relationships. It's to learn how to communicate your attachment needs directly and vulnerably, rather than through behaviors that create more of the disconnection you're afraid of.
So, how do you break these protest behavior patterns? Here are 5 practical steps that can help you respond to attachment anxiety in ways that actually create connection.
Step 1, name it. When you feel the urge to post something cryptic on social media, send multiple texts, or withdraw from your partner, pause and say to yourself, I'm feeling the urge to engage in a protest behavior. That's probably my attachment system trying to create safety.
Step 2, pause and regulate. Before you act on that urge, take some time to get back into your window of tolerance. This might mean taking some deep breaths, going for a walk, or using other grounding techniques to calm your nervous system.
Step 3, get clear on your actual need. Ask yourself, what am I really needing right now? Am I needing closeness, reassurance, a repair after conflict? Getting clear on your underlying need helps you communicate more effectively.
Step 4, communicate directly and vulnerably. Instead of testing or protesting, try using I feel, I need language. I'm feeling disconnected and I need some reassurance that we're okay. It's much more effective than withdrawing or creating drama.
Step 5, wait with compassion. Give your partner space to respond without preemptively punishing them if they don't respond exactly how or when your anxiety wants them to. Remember that secure responses take time, and your partner might need to process your communication.
If you're struggling to identify your protest behavior patterns or communicate your needs more directly, then download our free From Testing to Trusting guide, designed to help you recognize your patterns, understand your real needs, and practice more secure responses in the moment.
If protest behaviors feel compulsive or overwhelming, if you find yourself engaging in these patterns even when you don't want to, that's completely understandable. Your nervous system might be protecting old wounds that need more intensive healing.
Therapy, courses, and other guided resources can help you develop better self-regulation skills and learn to express your attachment needs in more secure ways. You deserve to feel safe in your relationships, and you deserve to be heard and understood by your partner.
Remember, healing anxious attachment isn't about never feeling anxious. It's about learning to respond to that anxiety in ways that actually create the security and connection you're seeking.
Before we wrap up, we want to hear from you. What protest behavior do you recognize most in yourself? And what helps you pause before acting on it? Let us know in the comments. Your insights might help someone else who's struggling with similar patterns.
In our next video, we are going to talk about breadcrumbing, how to recognize when someone is only offering you emotional crumbs, how it keeps you stuck in anxious attachment patterns, and how to walk away from people who aren't willing to offer you the full warm meal of genuine connection.
Your time is valuable. Thank you for sharing some of it with us today. If you found this helpful, please give it a like. And if you know someone who might be struggling with protest behaviors in their relationships, please share this video. It could provide the understanding they need to break these patterns.
Subscribe and take care of your heart. And remember, you're not alone and you're not broken. Protest behaviors aren't signs you're unlovable. They're signs you're scared. And scared people need connection, not punishment. We're all in this
Together.
together.